I'm joined now by candidate for the U.S. Senate in Ohio, Sherrod Brown. Thanks so much for joining me.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
Obviously, your entrance into this race is a huge boon for Democrats here. So what led you to make this decision to actually run again?
Yeah, I spent my career fighting a rigged political system, essentially, where corporations make more and more money. There's stock buybacks enjoyed and bonuses enjoyed by corporate leaders. Uh, Workers are more productive, yet they're not getting sharing in the wealth they created. It's always been that way, but it's gotten a lot worse since January. And my wife and I have watched month after month after month when prices have gone up, where tax cuts have gone to billionaires, where rural hospitals are going to close. 500,000 people in my state, 490,000 in a state of 12 million are going to lose their insurance. So when we saw that, we just couldn't sit in the sidelines. And I know I can win this race. I look at Ohio's two senators. Ohio workers don't have a voice on the Senate floor, and they need one. And I want to go back and be that voice for Ohio workers and for workers everywhere.
Well, obviously it's impossible not to look at the trajectory of Ohio in these last several election cycles. And so how do you overcome the fact that, despite our best efforts, Ohio has become redder and redder probably over the last 20 years?
Yeah, that's the right. I think that's the right analysis. I think when you look at what's happened in the state, and you see that workers have continued to lose, that corporate interests continue to win in Ohio. We have a state government that's corrupt, led in part by my opponent, a guy named John Husted, who was a shill for corporate interests in the state, and now he's moved to Washington. He has a bigger microphone and a bigger a bigger place to make his arguments and vote and follow the lead of every other spineless Republican in the Senate. But we come back if we talk directly to workers, give them a seat at the table, come up in a way that really matters to their lives. But they don't. I think workers don't see that. They don't see either party. I don't believe in sort of left politics, left or right. I believe whose side are you on? And in this election, workers are going to see I'm on their side. I'm on the side of consumers. I'm on the side of workers. If I say workers, I don't just mean union members, or I don't just mean manufacturing workers. It's somebody that works it's an orderly in a hospital. It's a McDonald's worker. It's a home care worker. It's somebody that's working on a non-union on a construction site. All those workers have lost representation. And as a result, too many of them have turned to Republicans.
How do you kind of exploit the fact that Republicans have been running populist campaigns? Trump himself has been running populist campaigns. He did it twice. His first term, he promised an infrastructure law for the people. He promised a healthcare plan that was cheaper and more comprehensive for the people. He promised a middle-class tax cut for people. He promised a manufacturing renaissance for people. None of that materialized. He gave himself a tax cut that overwhelmingly benefited millionaires and billionaires. Did it again this time. He said he was going to focus on the price of eggs, the price of groceries, the price of housing, the price of rent. Came into office, started building himself a $200 million ballroom and hosting crypto dinners in the White House. And so there has been this con that we've seen for so long. But the reality is that a lot of people who voted for him voted because they believed that he would do this stuff. And so I presume that would foster this sense of disillusionment for people. And so how do you convince them that you're there in good faith after they've been screwed over by people who've given them populist promises before?
Yeah, I define first of all, a couple of things. I define populism as fighting for workers, never dividing by race, never dividing, never attacking people as a result. I mean, populism to me is taking on special interests, not dividing people. But I also say that when I see those kinds of appeals by Trump and by others, we need to hold them accountable. Elections are about contrast. They're about whose side are you on, and we need to say that voters didn't vote for Medicaid cuts. Voters didn't vote in my state to lose 400,000 people losing their health insurance. Voters didn't vote for the largest tax cuts for rich people ever. Voters didn't vote for a $3 trillion budget deficit. Voters didn't vote for small town rural hospitals to close. So I just think we've got to just continue to remind people of what they've lost. things have gotten worse in these 8 months. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And we have senators without backbone. Uh, 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 Teddy Roosevelt once said about Oliver Wendell Holmes, he said, you could carve a better man out of a banana than him. And we have seen, clearly, we've seen elected officials in the Senate and House, but I'm running for the Senate, elected officials in the Senate that have shown no backbone at all. And so you've got to make them pay for it. You've got to say, John Husted, we didn't vote for these. We didn't vote for these tax cuts. We didn't vote for these for throwing people off Medicaid and make that contrast. Because as I said, politics isn't about left or right. It's about whose side you're on. And we just ad nauseum need to show people that they may say this, but when it comes to it, they're not fighting for you.
You've brought up all of the ways in which life has deteriorated in the last 8 months. Is there some sense of acknowledgement or recognition from folks? Because, look, I know that Republicans often benefit greatly from a very coordinated right-wing media ecosystem that's able to push a message, and they were able to do it really effectively with the price of eggs, for example, in this last election cycle. The Democrats don't have anything like what they have, their message apparatus on the right. And so while things are continuing to deteriorate, while costs are getting higher, while healthcare is being cut, while food assistance is being cut, while jobs are getting gutted, while veterans are getting fired, is that breaking through to the voters in your state?
I don't think it's ascribed to Trump. I think it's breaking through in the sense that people's lives are immeasurably worse.
Yeah.
People see that. I mean, I've been in grocery stores where we're going through the check, and my wife and I are just me going through the checkout line, and people have to put some of their groceries back because they cost more than they expected. I
Yeah.
mean, people feel that, they know that, they see what might happen sooner rather than later to rural hospitals, and it's up to us not to necessarily ascribe it to Trump, because that's pretty hard in a state like mine, but to ascribe it to the members of Congress who represent them. It's going to be pretty easy to say about John Husted, the 25-year veteran of Ohio politics, who's been appointed by Governor DeWine, appointed to the Senate, to say that he has been on the wrong side of all these issues. He's the reason, with his votes, he's the reason that egg prices continue to go up. He's the reason that you're going to see a rural hospital near you close. He's the reason that you may lose your health insurance. And when a rural hospital closes, it means a couple things. It means that people have to drive 30 or 40 miles to deliver a baby, or 30 or 40 minutes to get in an emergency. It's going to mean in those small towns, the hospital is so often the largest employer. And it's going to mean economic devastation to these towns too. We've got to go to those communities and talk about it. You don't have to talk about Trump. You talk about those elected officials that enabled them and hold them accountable. Trump's not on the ballot again. These guys are on the ballot, and they're mostly guys. These guys are on the ballot this year.
Is there a sense that voters are open? Look, I know for a lot of people, their political affiliation is in large part connected to their identity. And so it's not just as easy as being like, okay, you voted for Republicans last time, give Democrats a shot. And so has there been an acknowledgement kind of that transcends your political affiliation that has allowed people to recognize like what this entrenched Republican rule has ushered in? Are people open to hearing from the other side? Are people open to hearing what you have to say?
First, you don't start by saying those people vote against their own self-interest.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not up to me to tell you what your self-interest is. Second, that people just, people clam up and sort of close out any dissenting views then. But I think you talk about first you ask them, how are things going? What's your life like? What's going on with grocery prices? Are you paying more in utility bill? And then you walk them through that.
Yeah.
And I think if you make that appeal, again, whose side are you on, and make the contrast, we win a lot. We don't need to win a lot of them. We win some of them. I mean, even a state whose reputation has drifted is Republican, Ohio's drifted that Republican. We don't need to switch a lot of votes in the end. We need to get our people to the polls, and we need to help people understand what's happened, why things are worse in their lives, in grocery prices and utility prices, the huge gap growing larger between the rich and poor, the shrinking of middle class. People need to have that explained to them, and you do it. You don't have to do it by blaming it on the president. You do it by blaming it those in elected office that are coming up for a vote next year.
I hear a lot of Democrats talk about what the party should be, kind of in this nebulous meta sense. And the reality is that you're living it out by virtue of how you've served as senator before and how you're running this campaign right now. So I think that it would look, I'm very excited, obviously beyond words, to be able to see your campaign this cycle. But I think it's a good test case for other Democrats who are figuring out what the party is going to be as we are in this moment of just general uncertainty about what the brand is on the left, to look at what you're doing and other folks who are following that playbook. And I think that's kind of the salvation for Democrats moving forward.
Thank you. And I mean, we are the workers' party. We have been for close to 100 years. And it's important that we're inclusive when we talk about workers. I mean, think about, why was Dr. King in Memphis when he was killed? He was in Memphis to fight for sanitation workers. And we, as Democrats, we weave together human rights, civil rights, worker rights, because you can't really have civil rights without worker rights. You can't have worker rights without civil rights. And that's how we win elections. It's how we continue to build a broader based coalition. And when you say workers, you emphasize it's hospital workers, it's cafeteria workers, it's back office people, it's pharmacists, it's professionals, and when we start our Dignity of Work Institute, we started doing it. Was not political. It's a national organization. Back in March, April, we interviewed a lot of people. We did polling, we did focus groups, and we found there isn't much difference geographically, gender, or race among workers and their interests. And workers and their interests overwhelmingly think the system's rigged against them. No matter how hard they work, they're not enjoying they're not really sharing the profits or the better lives that they've created for their employers. And you talk like that and you show that, people are going to naturally be attracted to candidates that talk that way.
And so how are you thinking, and we'll finish off with this, kind of going into a little bit of news of the day here, but how are you thinking watching Trump and the Republicans in Congress and the Senate, and of course his cabinet in the White House, kind of chip away at all of those rights that have been gained over the last century? We're watching voter suppression happen in real time. We're watching all of the economic progress we've made get chipped away at in real time. We're watching this consolidation of wealth at the top, bolstered by policies that are being perpetuated by this administration. And so watching all of this stuff happen, that is, by the way, completely antithetical to what the Republicans promised they would do when they were campaigning. How are you looking at that in this moment?
Well, it's why I'm back in the fight. That I couldn't stay on the sidelines when I saw this. I didn't plan to do this January, February, March, into April probably. But I think it's what everybody needs to do. To everybody, one of the things that was interesting in our state capitol, there were 10 people that went to a Tesla dealership in maybe February. I'm not sure when they started, on a Saturday, and that grew to 1,000 people every Saturday. And one of the reasons I'm excited about running, I feel an obligation to be in the fight, but one of the reasons I'm excited is I see how many people are doing things that they can do that can make a difference. So they're going to the courthouse. They're talking about abortion rights. They're talking about libraries. Ohio has had quantifiably the best library system in the country for decades. The legislature and the national government are chipping away at it. The legislature mostly. I mean, people are so outraged for so many different reasons, and they're creating an energy that we've never seen at the grassroots in this country. So all of us figure out, what can we do best? Yeah. And what I can do best is run for office, because I have successfully, mostly for the last number of years. So I guess I'd leave people with this, that whatever you can think you can do best, it could be helping to get a campaign. We raised on our first day, a few days ago, we raised $3.6 million more than anybody had raised in the first day of a launch of a campaign. But we did it with 90% of the contributions were under $100. We got money from all 88 counties in Ohio. We've got our average contribution is like $40. We've gotten tens of thousands of people to give. So everybody can do something. And I just urge people, whatever it is, run for office, help a candidate, knock on doors, go to a Tesla. That's a little different now, the Tesla dealership, go to a library, go to the State House. In the smallest communities, in the most conservative places, we're seeing people stand up.
Well, I would highly recommend for everybody who's watching and listening right now, if you've not yet contributed to this campaign, this is one of our best opportunities here in the entire country, and we could not have a better candidate than Sherrod Brown. So I'm going to put the link to donate right here on the screen and also in the post description. I'm also going to put it in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. And again, if you have not yet had the opportunity to donate, please do it early. This is the opportunity that we have to define ourselves before Republicans have the opportunity to define Sherrod Brown. And so, being able to donate early and often really does make a big difference. So with that said, thank you so much for jumping into this race. Thank you for the time today, and best of luck in the campaign trail.
Thank you for a really good interview. Thanks so much for what you're doing, just consistently fighting back. We need you, and we need people like you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.